but I can do anything that I want to.
It takes a lot of work to get all those things into the architecture of one building. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. My name is Renee, and this is Highly Motivated, a channel where we check out different things that I find interesting, and hopefully you do too. Today, we have a couple of really good videos. We've got one that is on Freemasonic astrology in plain sight. And then we also have a video that discusses Satan's plans on deceiving the whole entire world. So before we get into that, please do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to my channel. And now let's get into the video. Okay, we're going to get started with the video about Satan's plans on deceiving the whole world. Now, this is
in
from
wartime, much planning is given to understanding your enemy, his tactics, and the routes he could take to get to you. For the Christian, although the war has been hidden from our eyes and is fought in an unseen realm, we still need to have that connection to the Holy Spirit in order to resist the attacks of demonic spirits. No one understands that connection better than Roger Marneau, an occult defector that became a Christian. Roger reveals that this demonic agenda is far more organized than anyone could have ever thought, as he recounts a meeting between demonic spirits in the 17th.
Far more than you could have ever imagined.
1800s about our present day.
At the beginning of 1700s, said the high priest, Satan and all his spirit counselors held a great general council. And by the time the council came to a close, they had three major policies that were going to be followed. First, they were to see to it that humans would be made to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist. The second one was to find a way of being able to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind. They could then use
our televisions are hypnotizing us. Music hypnotizes us.
People of great renown.
When you go to a concert, I've been to so many concerts. Like, I really wish I knew what I knew now back then, because you're literally participating in their rituals, and your energy by being at that concert helps strengthen that ritual. And then the things that they get you to chant and say over and over again while you're at that concert are words that help strengthen whatever ritual they're trying to do. It's crazy.
Educators, people of capacity.
The third point was what?
Was to destroy the Bible without burning it.
Okay.
See?
And what was the strategy on that?
On that?
Lucifer was heavily involved in the creation of Darwinism and the theory of evolution.
That Satan would tutor Charles Darwin personally in setting up the principles of his theories of evolution.
Sure enough, shortly after the 1700s, much superstition dissipated and the spiritual realm veiled itself from the physical realm. Ghosts became a campfire fairy tale. Breaking a mirror or walking under a ladder was no longer bad luck. Rabbit's feet and black cats were a thing of the past. Fear of the 13th floor dissipated, and Friday the 13th became a movie. So effective was the veiling of the spiritual realm that people began to think if there was no evidence of evil spiritual pranksters, there also must be no God.
It's hard to provide evidence for a God that you can't see or detect.
This paved the way for Darwin's teachings of evolution to begin to convince the most educated of the theory.
Yet, you believe in radio waves, you believe in the internet, you believe in your television waves, and if you say, yes, but I see the effects of the internet. Well, yes, you see the effects of our God every day in all of creation.
That would replace creationism. Thus, the first and the third policy were set in motion.
Can you imagine?
But what about this idea of mind control through hypnosis?
They educated
Since we don't see large
out of
portions
us.
of society entering into hypnotic clinics, perhaps the meaning of hypnosis has changed, and the hypnotist has come into our homes in the form of something we love. James Guinta says,
music is hypnotic. While you're listening, you'll hear everything I'm saying. You'll be awake. Hypnosis is not sleep. And it's not necessary to quack like a duck or bark like a dog. You'll remain completely in control of yourself, I guarantee you. Simply listening to the music causes changes in your body.
a significant portion of entertainment media
And I think about what I used to listen to. I used to listen to like real hard rock. And when I did that, I drank a lot. And then I became into the rave scene. And that led me down a drug addicted path for a few years. And, you know, I've been clean I'm going on my 5th year after spending a couple years in that. And I'm sure that the music I was listening to didn't have a good effect on that.
Produces a trance-like state, and the soft yet repetitive suggestions slowly change society through their sometimes subtle political, spiritual, and social justices. This is the form of hypnosis that Satan was planning to use to change society. Popular mythology among recording artists is the legend of the crossroads and the power it brings to them as an artist.
You hear those stories about the bluesmen that go out to the crossroads and sell their soul to the devil and come back all of a sudden able to do stuff. Robert Johnson, Tommy Johnson, that whole mythology was one of those kind of deals almost. When he left Minneapolis, he was just average. You know, there was 5, 6 other guys doing the same thing. When he came back, he's doing Woody and he was doing Van Ronk and he was finger picking. He was playing cross harp. And this is a matter of a couple of months.
Beyonce says that she has something come into her body when she goes on stage that makes it so she can hit those high notes. Nicki Minaj has an alter ego called Roman. Beyonce, Sasha Fierce. These are their demonic personalities. And then you look at, what is it, Little Uzi Vert, Little Lucifer. Like, it used to be a little more hidden, but it's like right like in our faces today.
That's when I went to the crossroads and made a big deal.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah. One night, and then went back to Minneapolis, and I was like, hey, where's this guy been? You know?
Yeah.
He went to the crossroads.
Yo, and look at
Why
his
do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing.
He's possessed.
I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
And look what happened to Doja Cat. She got to be the golden girl, right? And now she's going through her little humiliation ritual. And what do they have? Oh, what's that? Oh my gosh, the new one, Little Ice, or Ice Spice. Ice Spice, is that her name? Yes. She had recently a song with Taylor Swift. Like, they're basically telling you that they're bringing her in as the new next big thing, which means she has taken the oath.
To get where,
I could not think of her name. Ice Spice.
I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
Do
yeah,
what you
he
want.
is on this earth.
Do what you wanna do.
He only has power here. and he can't leave here. He can't be saved. Lucifer cannot be saved. There is no salvation for him. And so he wants to steal yours from you because you can live eternally. He cannot.
But I can do anything that I want to. I can pursue any kind of lustful desires that I might feel. I can engage in any activities that are so-called sinful activities and not really worry about any ecumenical.
If you saw my last video, you know how he died.
Councils making it right for me to do these things.
Living for, as I've said, all of their earthly and
Look at her face.
Pleasure.
Look at her face. Who does that look like to you? Taylor Swift, right?
A satanic world is a world reborn in purity, a world where the instinct and the intellect will be complementary to one another rather than being at odds with one another.
Now, if a Christian said to you, you were just really worshipping yourself, what would you say?
In a sense, they would be right. It is a form of self-worship.
If it's my hot body, I'll do what I want. I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever, I'll do what I want. So you can do what you want to do.
In America, Satanism is sensationalized and kind of misunderstood, and people associate it with worshiping the devil and things like that. But it's really a philosophy about individuality and self-preservation. It's about, being your own God.
As you can see.
Ye shall be as gods. The same lie that was told in the Garden of Eden. And did you see one of his main goals was to get people to think that he didn't exist? Because if the devil was able to get people to think that he wasn't real, then they wouldn't believe that God was real. And back in the day, spirituality was the cornerstone of everyone's lives, not your job or your career or anything like that. But let's get into the next video. This one is Secret Freemasonic Astrology Hidden in Plain Sight. And I apologize ahead of time if there's any weird interference. There's like a parade going on, like almost right outside my house.
During the 1790s, French Freemason Pierre L'Enfant designed the street plan and architectural layout of Washington, D.C. to include many occult talismans. If you see D.C. from an aerial view, you may be shocked to find things like an iron cross, the Star of David, an upside-down pentagram pointing to the White House, and even...
And the pentagram is open, which makes it more powerful.
With a huge owl sitting atop the Capitol building. The Egyptian hieroglyph for the Illuminati goddess
Inanna,
Isis Sirius,
also known as Inanna,
is a star, an oval, and an obelisk,
goddess
all
of
drawn
fertility.
together. In Washington, D.C., there just
False
happens
idol.
to be the Washington Monument obelisk, the Oval Office, and a pentagram encoded in the streets and architecture. David Oveson wrote,
and there just so happens to be one of those near the Vatican as well, right?
The Egyptian hierogram for the star Sirius consists of 3 shapes, a 5-pointed star, an oval, and an obelisk. Amazingly, this is just what we find in stone in Washington, D.C.
Representing
the entire city is dedicated astromantically to the star Sirius and its occult deities. Astrology is good enough for the ruling plutocrats, it seems. Pity that when the ordinary person seeks to use the divination arts for their own personal physical and spiritual empowerment, they are considered freaks and devil worshippers. As J.P. Morgan said, millionaires do not use astrology, billionaires do. In Washington, D.C.,
it would be considered a form of divination.
Have the phallic monument facing the female Oval Office, plus the Pentagon and L'Enfant's pentagrams. In Paris, we find Cleopatra's Needle, another obelisk, in front of the Notre Dame Virgin Mary's Cathedral. The Vatican has another masculine obelisk surrounded by a feminine circular building structure.
Yep.
In London, New
The
York,
Vesica Pisces.
and many other places, you will find the same. The Brotherhood has placed their sexual architecture at key geomantic points all over the earth. David Icke wrote, "The obelisk and the dome are common sites in the monument."
How do you guys feel about David Icke? I don't know. I kind of feel like he is like part of it, and his job is just disclosure because they do have to tell you what they're doing. And his books are so involved that I just can't imagine you knowing all that without being a part of it.
And buildings of the Brotherhood. The obelisk is an ancient phallic symbol of the male energy and solar energy, and the dome represents the female or moon energy. Often they are placed close together. This is the symbolism of the
They worship the creation and not the creator.
Oval Office, the womb female, in the White House, which looks out on the Washington Monument, the vast stone obelisk, phallic, male. These symbols attract and generate the energy they represent. They are a physical thought form. The obelisk also symbolizes the phallus of the
Solomon's
Egyptian sun.
builders. Now, I don't know how many of you are aware, but according to the Bible, Solomon's temple was built for him by demons. He had, I'm not sure, I want to say like 70 something. The number is in the Bible. He had a large number of demons under his control.
God Osiris.
And he was supposedly the most wise man to have ever lived, right?
After Osiris had been sliced into pieces by his rival Set, the Queen Isis found all the pieces except his willy. An obelisk, claimed to come from Alexandria in Egypt, stands in Central Park, New York, and its twin was erected in the 19th century during the reign of Queen Victoria on the former Templar lands alongside the River Thames, not far from the Houses of Parliament. It is known as Cleopatra's Needle, and originally stood in Heliopolis, the Egyptian city of the sun, from at least 1500 BC, before it was moved to Alexandria. A sphinx has been placed on either side at its London location. Another Egyptian obelisk, which was built in Luxor 3,200 years ago, now stands in the Place de Concorde in Paris, less than a minute's drive from the scene of Diana's.
Yes, and it's the same thing they've been worshiping since the ancient Egypt days. All of those hieroglyphs and things of that nature, of them wearing those like animal head costumes and things like that, they did exist, but not at that time. Those were pre-flood creatures, abominations, right? And after the flood, one of Noah's sons found some carvings and spells and things about astrology, and he kept them and he hid them and he kept them for himself, and then used that to have people think that he was a god. And that's where that started. They started wearing things that looked like creatures that existed pre-flood because they knew what they looked like. They were there. They existed then, you know.
Crash. On the other side of the crash scene is the Eiffel Tower, another gigantic obelisk in disguise. The Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. is a colossal obelisk. The dome, from a Greek word meaning place of the gods, draws in and harnesses energy, as does the pyramid. They also keep the secrets of ancient
Yes, and the ancient pyramid had a gold capstone originally, and the gold is what attracted the energy down into the pyramid. And I fully believe that they not only had electricity and maybe even like wireless internet computing, like on a quantum level, built into the landscape and the building structures, and that's why everything was built on ley lines. And I think that they had a higher level of technology than we do now, but we are probably going to surpass or at least come to what they had at some point.
Lines and continue building along them. For instance, the cities of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. are all on a perfect diagonal that continues down to Teotihuacan and all the way up to Stonehenge, Troy, and Baalbek. London to Giza and Paris to Dendera are almost equidistant parallel lines as well. This geomantic knowledge was understood and kept hidden by ancient
It's the knowledge of the fallen ones.
builders and masons, and remains that way today.
Yep.
David Icke wrote, "Has anyone ever asked themselves why a war memorial nearly always has to be an obelisk? And why do you think the Washington Monument in the center of Washington, D.C. is a giant obelisk? Because obelisks, like all these symbols and geometrical shapes, generate the energy they represent. I remember climbing some stone steps inside a big obelisk near Hebden Bridge in England, and feeling enormous male sexual energy all around me. I wondered what on earth was happening until I remembered where I was. Inside a male phallus, in effect. What a symbol is built to represent is the energy it will generate, because symbols are a physical manifestation of the thoughts which create them.
Yes.
These guys don't put their symbols everywhere just for fun. They do it because it helps to resonate the energy field to the vibrational frequency.
It strengthens their spells, and demons are fourth dimensional beings, and that's why you can see like there will be pictures of demons hidden in dollar bills and things like that, because that's how they work. They're higher beings. They can get inside of anything. They can see inside of our bodies. They can see inside the walls. They're just not. We're third dimensional beings, so we see two-dimensionally, right? And so they're four-dimensional beings, so they see three-dimensionally, and we can't even imagine what that would look like.
They want. In turn, this affects the thoughts and feelings of the people. The Masons are very familiar with astrology, astronomy, and astrotheology. They align all important commemorations, dedications, declarations, groundbreakings, grand openings, and other events to coincide with astrological phenomena.
Yep. And they also make it coincide on like a gematria level as well. Dates, names, everything. It's so involved, you wouldn't even believe. You wouldn't even be. Once you start going down that rabbit hole, you'll be there for a while.
David Oveson wrote, "The extraordinary truth is that the very existence of the Washington Monument is intimately linked with the Egyptian star Sirius, the Sihor, which the ancients represented in their sacred hieroglyphics as an obelisk as well as a star. How is it possible that this most important star of the ancient world should find itself, as it were, resurrected in the architecture of the United States?
Yep.
In the course of that day, when the cornerstone of the Washington..."
Because we are the home of the brave and the land of the Freemason. That's the part they left out.
"Monument was laid, the sun would have passed over Sirius. Computations clearly show that on the day the Declaration of Independence was agreed in Philadelphia, the sun was on Sirius. The Mason who first signed the Declaration of Independence would have been aware of the particular significance of July 4th as a cosmic event.
Of course.
The day was the second in the so-called Dog Days, which begin on July 3rd. The Dog Days are so called because they refer to the rising of the star Sirius. In the years following the Revolution,
they love that star.
The Masonic fraternities held ceremonial layings for such new enterprises as bridges, locks, universities, government buildings, state houses, memorials, and even churches.
Why didn't I know that Osiris was Orion? That's interesting.
Such buildings were aligned with the stars, and with the spiritual beings who ruled the stars. Although a survey of the foundation charts used in the early phase of the building of Washington, D.C. reveals the importance of astrology, and, indeed, confirms beyond doubt that astrology played an important role in the early Masonic rites, the rationale of astrology was rarely discussed openly, even in Masonic documents. Knowledge of the stars, insofar as they were understood in Masonic circles, was preserved as secrets best left to those with specialist knowledge of such things. August 7th.
The main reason for them, changing the timelines and the dates and things of that nature were so that people it was just in combination with them eliminating the belief in God and the belief in demons and angels. They wanted to eliminate the ability for people to
1880
tell when the rapture was going to be happening. We don't know the day and we don't know the hour, but I do believe through the signs that have been given, and I'll say this probably again and again, that we will know the season. And I feel like we are getting close if you look at the way the world is going. We have this one world government coming, and this knowledge is coming to light, which to me says that's why they're trying to rush on this reset, because they don't want everyone to wake up. They need to get rid of enough people so that if they wake up, it doesn't matter. That's why the borders are open and people are coming in. They don't care. They're putting them all to the big cities. And if this reset happens the way they want it, these big cities, there's not going to be much left. So, I mean, not to be doom and gloom, but...
Precisely 10:59 a.m., the cornerstone of the Washington Monument obelisk was laid just as the sun passed over Sirius. The day the foundation stone for the White House was laid, around noon, the moon entered the same 23rd degree of Virgo as the Dragon's Head node. On the morning of September 18th, 1793, the sun was also passing through this degree of Virgo when the Capitol building was founded. When the Library of Congress was founded, the Sun and Saturn were in conjunction in Virgo. And when the Scottish Rite Freemason House of the Temple cornerstone was laid on October 18th, 1911, the Moon and Venus were in conjunction in Virgo. The White House, Capitol building, and Washington Monument form the Federal Triangle, which mirrors on the ground Arcturus, Spica, and Regulus in the sky, 3 stars that bracket Virgo. In Washington, D.C., there are 22 full zodiacs secreted into the architecture, most of them highlighting Virgo. This is the highest concentration of zodiacal art and symbology in the world, compared with only 4.
I mean, you can't say that that's just coincidence. It takes a lot of work to get all those things into the architecture of one building.
In London, for example. David Oveson wrote,
"It's a big club and you ain't in it."
The chances of the correspondence being mere
Was that
coincidence
George Carlin?
are so remote that we must assume that whoever was directing the planning of Washington, D.C. not only had a considerable knowledge of astrology, but had a vested interest in emphasizing the role of the sign Virgo. Time and time again, we shall see that a knowledge of the stars played an important part in every state.
And this right here uses logic and critical thinking skills to form an educated opinion. Well, you've got a few generations of people who, aspired to get the best grades by regurgitating what was programmed into them. And so they start out being told what to think and then being tested on what they were told to think. And then they go to college and they're told a whole bunch of other things to think. And then they're tested on their ability to regurgitate that information. And then they become adults and they're looking to CNN or Fox News to tell them what to think. It's not on accident.
Age of the creative phases in the construction of the city. On evenings from August 10th to the 15th, as the sun sets over Pennsylvania Avenue, the constellation Virgo appears in the sky above the White House and the Federal Triangle. At that same moment, the setting sun appears precisely above the apex of a stone pyramid in the old post office tower, which is just wide enough to occlude the solar disk. According to the 19th century Freemason Ross Parsons, the Assumption of the Virgin Mary is fixed on the 15th of August because at that time the sun is so entirely in the constellation of Virgo that the stars of which it is composed are rendered invisible in the bright effulgency of his
even
rays.
that picture, that picture of Jesus has that big halo sun in the background. That's actually, well, first of all, you're not supposed to have any graven images, so there's that. Second of all, that halo in the back, that actually represents sun worship.
John Coleman wrote, "Man has always felt the need to dominate, and nowhere and at no time is the desire more prevalent than in this modern era." If it were not so, why all the need for secret societies? If we are ruled by an open system, run by democratically elected officials,
we're not.
Why the need for a secret Masonic order in every village, town, and city across the United States? How is it that Freemasonry can operate so openly and yet keeps its secrets so well hidden?
I think that maybe it's because it's spiritual. They run the world. It is in my opinion, the world is the Babylonian system. It's a system. It's not just, I do think that America is Babylon, right? There's a lot of clues that point to us being Babylon, like the fact that the merchants will be they won't have anywhere to sell their goods because Babylon's gone. Like and how we have culture, like our culture has pretty much taken over the entire world. We have more reach than any other country. And I just saw something the other day that showed that pretty much any country that we ever had any sort of conflict with or had to help, we went and built a base there and then never left. So we are on the 10 hills. That is America. America is Babylon. But I really hope that you enjoyed those clips. I thought they were super interesting, and I thank you again for coming back to my channel. And until next time, stay highly motivated.